maybe right now, yeah, probably.
Yes.
Not, yeah, okay.
Okay, I start recording from my part, but I think that if you want to post it on YouTube, you will need to record it as well, or I think that...
Yeah, I think, yeah, first I will just make the recording. It will be in cloud, I suppose, and then, so like Aidana, I think she will manage all these things. Yeah, probably she will upload somewhere, maybe on YouTube. So, okay.
So I guess that now we can probably just start our session. We waited just enough, and I will start sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see something, because I mean, I'm not sure how Zoom exactly works, because I use another platform for my, let's say, lessons at my university.
Yeah, I see, yes,
full screen.
share the screen, okay. And okay, I can just maybe introduce you, yes. So today we continue Alumni Association webinars, and today we have our presenter, Sergey Bolson-Tastanbek. So he is an alumnus of Nazarbayev University, Graduate School of Education, multilingual education, correct, yeah? So, and today he will be presenting his topic. So we welcome you, please.
Yeah, thank you so
much. Could you please see that we have a recording, right?
Yes.
So I start. Okay, that's...
Hello guys, it's really nice to see you here. Thank you for joining me once again. Today I'm going to talk on the topic that is presented here, and yeah, be informed that the session will be recorded. So I think that, yeah, your names will probably not appear in the list. If you feel uncomfortable, you don't need to, yeah, start your video. Thank you so much once again. Yeah, as I said, the topic is critical analysis of curriculum and assessment from a plurilingual perspective. And you may be wondering what plurilingual perspective is. Like, I'm sure that most of you are familiar what curriculum and assessment are. Yeah. So I'm just going to talk about that little, let's say, part of my topic right now. So, one moment. Okay, so you see this picture with kids, they are all in jumping sacks, and imagine that you are in your English class and let's say you are learning the language, yeah, the target language, and you are racing with kids that are not really in jumping sacks, but rather just running with their feet, right? So if you compare yourself with those kids that are running toward the finish line without any obstacles or let's say sacks, of course you would come last, right? You would come after those kids. And in classes, when you are, let's say, learning the language, let's say not using your first and second languages is somewhat similar to racing against kids whose languages are taken into consideration, yeah? And of course, if you use only English during classes, then you would be somewhat limited in your, let's say, mobility, and you would probably run or jump at a lower speed, yeah? So that's what I want you to imagine, and then I want you to answer these two questions. So you can answer these questions in the comments, or you can just mentally answer these questions, yeah? So when learning English, have your instructors explicitly made links to your prior knowledge in Kazakh and or Russian? And another question is, have your instructors explicitly built on your prior rhetorical knowledge and skills developed in Kazakh and Russian to additional support, yeah, or for additional support? So personally, I think in many cases, there can be, of course, instances of use of Kazakh and Russian in classes, but from my personal experience, that happened implicitly, or sometimes we as instructors or as students felt guilty for using those skills and resources. Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. I guess that you can see my picture as well. Okay, I will move it here. Thank you so much for your comment. Yes, so as I said, yeah, it can happen in classes, but sometimes it doesn't happen, and especially at English medium universities such as Nazarbayev University, we are assumed to be kind of at the same level as native speakers because we took some IELTS tests or maybe TOEFL tests, and they think that we are like really good at English, so we don't really need to use our, let's say, first or second language. So Kazakh and Russian are kind of set aside, and I think that those two languages or even more languages, probably if you come from a different ethnic background, you also speak maybe Tatar, Uzbek, and many other different languages. So those languages aren't really, let's say, used to your advantage that much, right? So that's why I wanted to, let's say, research this topic with my colleagues, group mates. And today, during this webinar, I want to talk about a few things that I listed here. First, I want to delve into the course paper and the authors, and then I will also give some information that will be the background of this study, and you will, of course, learn about the research questions, the theoretical framework, and a bit more about the methodology, findings and discussion, conclusion, and at the end there will be some time for us to ask questions and answer those questions. So let's first talk about the author, the course paper itself. It is something that we worked on during the last trimester at Nazarbayev University Graduate School of Education. So it was in 2019, and yeah, so it's been a year and a half since we finished this, let's say, research project, yeah? And we did it for a course called Multilingual Curriculum Development and Assessment. So we wanted to, let's say, work in this team of 4 people, and it included me, my friends and group mates Farida Mirzaqulova, Shahrizad Agaydarova, and Zarina Kalejanova, who are now working as researchers and university instructors or let's say school teachers. So thank you to them for making this possible, and it wouldn't happen without them, of course. Unfortunately, they couldn't join today, but I will try to represent their, let's say, ideas as best as I can. So you may be wondering what exactly prompted us to research this specific topic. It was because Nazarbayev University, as an EMI university or English Medium Instruction University, and let's say MA Multilingual Education Program itself. Okay, one moment. Okay, let's do this. They target smooth implementation of trilingual and language education policy in Kazakhstan. But even though they have such goals in general, I think that it isn't really clear how exactly our multilingualism and student plurilingualism are considered in the curricula, let's say at NUGSE and at EMI universities in Kazakhstan at large. Individual instructors may be using students, let's say, plurilingualism or societal multilingualism, but it isn't at an institutional level and definitely not at national level. So additionally, as English language instructors ourselves, the 4 authors were interested in analyzing how Advanced English for Education Professionals 2 approaches curriculum and assessment, and how this course approaches those 2 things from a plurilingual perspective. Yeah? So I think that we chose this specific course because we liked it so much, and the instructor was one of the best English instructors in my experience, and I thought, okay, this person must be doing something right, that we like it so much. But what if we look at it from a plurilingual perspective? Is he doing everything right, or is he doing enough? Yeah, that's what also motivated us to look at this course specifically. If you studied at NUGSE, you probably know this person, and you probably have the same opinion, yeah? So that is why we asked these 3 questions here. The first one was, what are the strengths of the course in terms of curriculum design and assessment? The second one was, what are the limitations of the course in terms of curriculum design and assessment? And lastly, how were the students' plurilingual identities harnessed in the course? So I will try to answer these questions by the end of this presentation. So first of all, let's look at the theoretical framework. I won't be saying too much about the literature that we used to prepare for this study, but I think that this framework is the most useful one, and it will give you a good idea of how exactly we analyze this, let's say, topic. Yeah? So we used Nation and McAllister's work from 2009, which focuses on curriculum design, and in their work, these two authors say that there are multiple elements that should be considered together, and they should be intertwined and streamlined so that everything flows smoothly. And as you see, there are several circles, and in the inner circle, we see that there is a goals, let's say, circle inside them. So it means that while preparing any kind of curriculum, you should set clear goals that are aligned with the program goals or the university's, let's say, strategy. Yeah? And of course, those should correspond to each other. You cannot really create a program that does something that isn't really fit with the university's goal or the program's goal that includes this specific course. Yeah? And then we also see content and sequencing, format and presentation, and monitoring and assessing in this inner circle as well. And let me talk about content and sequencing first. So here, I think that it's obvious that the content of the language course can be planned or evaluated taking into account the following 4 areas. It is language, ideas, skills, and discourse. So these all should be, again, streamlined together, and they should be sequenced in a manner that is logical. For example, some courses repeat the same topics, let's say, multiple times, going from lower levels to higher levels, and sometimes the courses can be linear, meaning that they start with an easier, let's say, topic, and they progress into something a lot harder. So from introductory to advanced levels, yeah, and that's something that's included in the inner circle. And then we have format and presentation, which are, let's say, one moment. So in this dimension, the framework consists of 4 elements, and those are, first of all, meaning-focused input, and then meaning-focused output, language-focused learning, and fluency development. So I think that this can be connected to Krashen's comprehensible input theory, or let's say concept as well, because here the students should not be, let's say, getting anything that is a lot beyond their level, yeah? And the presentation should also be, let's say, balanced. Input and output here should be balanced, let's say, well, and that way the course will be successful. And then we have monitoring and assessing. I think that here we can talk about the assessment tools and let's say, sometimes preliminary tests that are taken by the students. So there can be some benchmarking tests such as IELTS or TOEFL used for measuring the students' initial skills, and then there can be assessment tools that are used, let's say, formatively or summatively throughout the course. And we have needs, principles, and environment in the outer circle, and those are, let's say, also very crucial. Of course, you should consider the students' needs, and you should consider the principles of teaching and pedagogy at large, and the environment in which the learning happens should be taken into account when designing the curriculum. And we will be basing, I will be basing this research on this framework here. Hopefully you found this interesting. If you want to learn more about this, you can look up Nation and McAllister. It is a nice book, and if necessary, I can share this book with you. I think that it is something that every language instructor should be familiar with. In terms of methodology, we used two different approaches. First, we decided to choose autoethnography because as 4 participants who are also course students, we wanted to reflect on the course strengths and weaknesses through the lens of our past experience. So I think that it allowed us to share this ME perspective because usually or oftentimes it happens so that the researchers are not really in the process or in the environment where this whole process is happening or where the phenomena are taking place. So that's why we wanted to describe and analyze our personal experiences to understand this phenomenon, which is curriculum. And another approach that we used here is document analysis. So we tried to examine and interpret such course documents as course syllabus, teaching materials, and assignments. So, and as I said before, there were 4 participants, and all of us were at the time NUGSE MA Multilingual Education students. So let's now switch to the findings. So first of all, as I'm going to talk about the inner circle, let's focus on the goals. The goals of the program or the course were in alignment with the MA Student Handbook and also the NU strategy, Nazarbayev University strategy. And specifically, the course goals matched sections 5 and 6 of our handbook, which said collaborative and critical skills and ability to write academically and analytically in professional educational settings. So those things were, let's say, focused on in this course. And then we can also say that all 4 skills were covered. Reading activities, writing assignments, in-class discussions, and speaking assignments helped us to develop all those 4 skills. However, I think that one of the things that wasn't, let's say, sufficiently covered is listening skills. Probably it was not explicitly mentioned because we were kind of supposed to watch different lectures and additional materials in our free time, but still it wasn't included, let's say, as much as the other skills. And the objectives were all sequenced in alignment with other courses, meaning that the course wasn't really happening in a vacuum. So it happens often that some English courses do not really take into consideration what the other courses require from the students. So it may be so that you are, let's say, writing some essays when in fact the other courses require you to be able to present something. So it is really important to make sure that you are analyzing what other faculty at your university are doing and what the students really need. So the objectives should be in alignment with the other courses, and for that I think you need to conduct a mini research before starting your course, and your course itself should not be, let's say, static. It should be dynamic, and every year there may be changes according to the goals and objectives of other courses and the program that you are teaching in at large. And unfortunately, we also found that the course itself implicitly takes an English-only direction. And by saying that, I mean that everything in the course was only in English, and it did not, let's say, take into consideration the plurilingual backgrounds of the students, and there was a lack of space for the students to use their prior language knowledge. So meaning that there were no assignments that required or allowed, let's say, using Kazakh or Russian, as I said before. So you may be thinking that if all the students are at a very high level of English, then why is it necessary to take into account all those other languages? But it was, let's say, stated multiple times by researchers that even high-level students and learners, language learners, may benefit and will definitely feel empowered when their languages are, let's say, harnessed. So when you're able to express yourself in, let's say, multiple languages, and you can do that freely without feeling guilty in classes, you will feel empowered, and let's say you will reach your goal a lot faster. So you won't be in that sack, yeah, when running this race. Instead, you will be able to use all your four limbs freely, and you will reach the finish line a lot faster, and maybe you will also feel happier while doing that. So in terms of content and sequencing, okay, let me put this here, if you don't see it. The course content corresponds to the aim of the course, all the activities and tasks for academic vocabulary expansion, development of academic language, discussion, presentation, and peer reviewing skills matched each other, and they all are correspondent to the initial goals of the course. Yeah? So nothing was happening randomly. Everything that we did throughout the course helped us reach specific goals that were set by the course creators initially. And the course took a linear development, meaning that the materials related to the content of the previous courses. So since the course title is Advanced English for Education Professionals 2, it means that there were courses that preceded this one, and there was a course that was called 1, and there was a course that focused on academic English at large. Yeah? So everything that was covered by those courses was taken into account in this course curriculum as well. And the course itself also sets a goal of supporting students learning in the other courses as well, and it also says that it intends to support the work that you do or that students do in other core courses, and it also helps to develop skills and competencies, let's say, so skills and competencies developed in this course can also help or can be applied to other courses as well. So that was one of the things that caught our attention, and I think that it is something that should be done by all courses. Yeah, nothing should happen in a vacuum. And if we talk about the negative aspects of the content and sequencing, it is that the course content failed to consider the learner needs. For example, at the beginning of the course, there was an essay where we addressed our academic skills, and a lot of the students, or at least all 4 participants that, let's say, participated in this study, highlighted that they emphasized paraphrasing skills, advanced paraphrasing skills, and also essay organization. And I think that the course didn't really cover those 2 things sufficiently. Perhaps it was because it was assumed that we learned how to do those things in the previous courses, yeah, since it was the final course that we were taking. There was no purposeful integration of multilingual assignments and or tasks. So while we were, of course, allowed to use Kazakh, Russian, and any other language in group discussions, I think that the instructor did not really give us any type of tasks or assignments that would allow us to use those purposefully, or so it wasn't really planned. Yeah, so it was happening organically, but I think that probably it could be, let's say, taken into consideration at the planning stage of the course, instead of just letting things go as they can, as they will. So now, if we talk about the format and presentation of the course, we had everything from what Nation McAllister required for the course to include, and there was meaningful focused input. We used different academic works, such as the Elements of Style, How to Write with Style, and other academic articles. We used one, let's say, textbook, which focused on academic language and style in general. And we also produced output that was in line with the input. Yeah, so we produced essays, we also wrote blogs, and we commented on our peers' posts, and they were also critical reviews and student-led discussion and even deconstruction. So all this was in agreement with the input, yeah. So I think that is really crucial. And as I highlighted before, the listening skill was not given the same attention as other 3 skills, but I think that the debates that happened in class also, they also intended to strengthen our listening skills. Because we had to take notes of what others were saying, and we had to use what we heard to rebuttal what our, let's say, opponents were saying. And they were, let's say, student-led discussions and visual presentations where we also had to use our listening skills. But this skill was not, let's say, included in the assignment goals or objectives. So we could possibly say that it was implicitly included there. And last but not least, I think that it is really important that learning happens interactively. Yeah, so it was really used or intended for in this course as well. And so we weren't really limited in terms of group discussions during this course. So we were able to use our full linguistic repertoire. So we could use Kazakh, Russian, and English for speaking within groups. So the instructor never came to us and told us, okay guys, speak only English, don't speak Russian, don't speak Kazakh. So that never happened, at least throughout this course. Yeah? But I think that another downside is that it wasn't really encouraged either. So we could possibly say that the instructor took a neutral position regarding our, let's say, plurilingual approaches, because it was neither encouraged nor discouraged. The last, let's say, element in the inner circle of our framework is monitoring and assessment. So as I said before, it is a requirement for all the students to have a score of IELTS above 6.5 or above. And that's why there was no diagnostic assessment in this specific course. And for assessment, the instructor used a variety of assignments for short-term achievement and achievement assessment in general. Yeah? And the weighting of assignments was balanced as well. So if you look at this table, you will see that we had, okay, let's put it here. We had different elements that were taken into consideration when, let's say, calculating the course grade. It included attendance, homework, and quizzes. Then we had blog writing as a requirement, and then we had 2 formal writing assignments, and then we had 3 speaking assignments. And overall, the weighting was balanced. Yeah? Assignment. Okay, I think that I can see some typos. I'm sorry about this. So assignment descriptions and assessment rubrics were also provided in advance, and they were first of all uploaded onto Moodle, and then they were also discussed during classes. So it is really crucial that the students have a clear idea of what they expected. And I think that probably what could be done even better, or what could be done to improve the students' learning, is providing very good examples, because now I realize as an instructor at the university myself, students benefit a lot when they have a clear vision of what they can produce. Yeah? Perhaps it is a bit too much, you may say, but honestly, especially for students that are, let's say, speaking English, or that speak English as a foreign language, it is crucial to have very good sample words. So another thing is that there was no purposeful use of student language background, as I said before. So it means that there was no accommodation in assessment. And what I mean by that is, let's say, so the fact that we are EFLs, yeah, or English as a foreign language learners wasn't really considered that much in the assignments, but probably it was kind of assumed, yeah, and the instructor did not see it necessary to highlight that in the assignments. But the good thing is that we were free to use all our languages during in-class discussions. So, but I think that that is really the minimum, yeah. So we can go beyond that level and maybe use our language backgrounds to a higher level. So now let's conclude this presentation. So I think that in general we can say that the course goals were all aligned with MA program requirements, and the content and sequencing were all planned in accordance with the course goals, meaning that nothing was happening, let's say, randomly. Everything was aligned, and I think that, yeah, the course kind of went through different stakeholders, and it was all approved. And as I mentioned, the plurilingual student needs were not fully considered, although, as I said, we were not limited while, let's say, conducting group discussions. The other types of in-class activities and assignments did not really consider our plurilingual backgrounds. Yeah? And in terms of format and presentation, everything related and input, output, language focus, and fluency development learning happened there. And overall, the course effectively coped with various assessment and monitoring types, but again, it failed to consider our plurilingual and pluricultural student identities overtly. So although it could happen, or it happened implicitly, yeah, without, let's say, openly discussing or highlighting those, I think that it could be improved and overtly addressed. If we talk about the limitations, I think that those are methodological, and since we had only 4 participants, I think that it's hard to generalize our opinions and say that it is the opinions of all the cohort members and all the previous, let's say, MA program alumni. Yeah? And since it is an autoethnographic study, it was based on our personal thoughts and perspectives. And while we tried to stay objective, I think that there is no way we can avoid being biased to some extent. Yeah, but yeah, we did our best. And since we had a little experience with document analysis, I think that it also could have affected the depth of analysis. Probably we could, yeah, of course, do an even better job now that we are more experienced. But yeah, again, we did it to the best of our abilities. And I think that generally the implications are for 2 stakeholders specifically. It is, first of all, for program administration. They can provide more support so that the program changes and there are some corrections in the program that allow the instructors in their turn to consider the student needs. Yeah? And in terms of needs, I mean students experience with specific skills such as paraphrasing and essay organization, and also their plurilingual background, because again, those things were not explicitly addressed. Yeah? So I think that the course should be dynamic and it shouldn't really stay the same, let's say, over the years. And I realize that as an instructor myself now, because let's say while working at Astana University, we have, of course, prepared the syllabi multiple times, and the syllabus that we used the previous year isn't, let's say, something that we are going to use this year. Instead, we are reflecting on our experience and considering what worked and what didn't and what could be done better. Yeah? So it is really important, and I hope that our paper, let's say, helped the program administration, because actually we shared this work, as I remember. So again, that was what we thought could be helpful at that point. So now I think that it's time for us to ask ourselves a few questions. So before you ask me questions, I want to ask you questions actually. So can you please look at these 3 questions here? So I want you to take the stance of an instructor if you teach English or any other course. And if you aren't an instructor, then think about these questions as a student. Do you analyze your course? Yeah, or as an instructor or a student? If yes, how can you strengthen your course curriculum and assessment? I'm sorry about this. I think that I should have spent a bit more time proofreading this, but yeah, it is what it is. And if no, what tools do you need to start doing your course analysis? So let's give you some time. If you want to share your answers, let's say you can also unmute yourself. So let me take a look at the question here. Oh, okay.
I think that we can unmute the participants.
Yeah, that
if
would
they do this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and, as a host, you also can do this to unmute the participant who is going to speak.
Okay, thank you. So I guess then you can raise your hand and I will allow you to talk, right? So that's what I can possibly do.
Yeah, that's
okay. MRW. Okay. So hello, please briefly.
Oh, okay. Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? Sorry, Bosa, you're very well aware that we do things kind of informally in our class. I don't really have the time to really analyze things properly, but we do that. I think in our subsequent meetings, we have a group meeting and we go over sort of what worked from last semester, what didn't work, and then when we write a new syllabus, we try to make those changes you're talking about. Okay, and I would like to see maybe something besides Moodle, and it's probably not going to happen, but you can do like test analysis and see what scores they got right, what questions they got right, what questions they got wrong, because we have to, if we're going to analyze a course, we need to take all the elements of it, and then hopefully we'll get to a point where our syllabi are stable, and then we can use some of the same test over again, but tweak them and make them better. And that's what we're not really doing. We're just making up new syllabi and everything from scratch over and over again. And that doesn't lead to any kind of real, it's improvement in a way, but it's not ideal. If we actually had test analysis, that would be really good.
Yeah,
okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think that what we are doing at the moment is somewhat informal and it is quite fluid, yeah, and we have to kind of get some sort of a framework according to which we can analyze our courses. And I think that for that, we need to develop some tools, for example, a test, as you said, or maybe some survey, according to which we can analyze the opinions of students and the instructors, and then based on those we can strengthen our course curriculum and assessment tools. And at the moment, I don't know if I should say this, but we are trying to work on that with two of my colleagues, and hopefully we can conduct this research and further improve our courses at Astana University. Okay, so let's now see if there are any more people that would like to share their opinion. Thank you. Okay, should I? So anyone else? So if you want to say anything, you're welcome. Oh, okay, I guess. How do I do this?
I'm gonna move myself here. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is an English speaker, I mean, I could do this in Arabic and I could do this in Spanish. And what you're talking about is encouraging students to use their own language. However, we get into there are a couple questions. How do I do that as an English speaker who doesn't speak Russian and Kazakh in a class where I'm evaluating things that are only in English to me? that's a bit difficult.
So the thing here is that you do not necessarily have to understand all the languages present in class, because then this approach would be very limited, and you should be able to, then it would mean that you have to speak the same languages as all the students. And then, I mean, for example, countries such as Canada or the US, for example, or many other let's say Western countries would not be able to use the plurilingual approach. What you can do here is you can allow the students to build on their skills, let's say when working together or on their own, and also you can allow them to use different, let's say, meaning-focused input. For example, you can let them use articles or sources in multiple languages, instead of saying that, okay, guys, you have to read only articles in English, or okay, you should listen to only English-speaking, let's say, radio hosts, yeah? Or instead of saying, okay, guys, watch only videos in English on YouTube, you can say, okay, you can go ahead and find some bloggers or people that are discussing this issue in Kazakh, Russian, English, or maybe in a mix of languages. And you can also say that they can go ahead and find some articles that discuss a specific issue in Kazakhstan, and then they can maybe get a better idea. Yeah? First of all, they won't struggle with understanding the issue. Second of all, it will be more contextual. Yeah, so they won't be reading about something that is so detached from their context, from Kazakhstan. Instead, they will be, okay, yeah, so people are discussing this issue in Kazakhstan, in Kazakh, so it is even more important than I thought. Yeah, so I think that they will feel.
I understand completely the reasoning behind that. However, if we're going to, a big thing is the plagiarism and the paraphrasing. How am I going to take an article that is written in Russian, and that's how it's submitted to me, is the APA referencing? How am I going to take that and evaluate if there was any the paraphrasing or anything like that? That's a difficulty I have with that particular suggestion.
Again, I think that there should be this element of trust. Of course, I do realize that it's impossible to fully understand the original sources, but again, we are more evaluating the output rather than the input. Yeah? So if they read some source in Russian and they are paraphrasing that source, I think that we should be more concerned with what the outcome is. So yeah, I do realize that there are...
I can see that both ways. I thought of something that I might be able to do, of developing some kind of some grammar exercises for them to do in asynchronous manner that they need to do bilingually, so that they can see what the strengths are, the similarities between their own languages and English, and the differences, because that helps them really learn not only about English grammar, but it also helps them learn their own grammar better.
Yeah,
things like that. Would you agree with that? Would be a good way of going about encouraging multilingualism in the classroom?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and that, let's say, idea could be further discussed at the collegial level as well, because I think that yeah, of course, while one instructor can do that, it's going to be an even better job done if multiple people are engaged in this project or idea. So thank you so much for your input, Mark, and I will...
I only have one other comment, and that is that I've lived overseas for a long time, and the top-down management almost always forbids instructors from using any of their native language in the classroom, and I really get upset with that. It like you say, it doesn't give the students the tools that they need to succeed. How do we get around that top-down management to allow, because one of our staff members was discouraged from explaining things when students just didn't understand it in English and they had to understand the concept? How do we get around that really old, archaic way of thinking?
Well, what we can do in this case, in my opinion, is provide some research-based evidence and say that, okay, this is what literature says, and this is what experts are saying we can do in this case. And also another thing is that we can do is to conduct primary research. So like we can conduct, let's say, case studies or action research, as you remember what was encouraged by Nazarbayev recently. I think that's something that we can do to address this issue at our institution, and I would also recommend doing the same thing to other instructors. If you want to do something, show examples, show what others are, let's say, saying on the same issue. So
yeah, my goodness, it's been out there for a long time. They should know this by now.
Well, I guess we have to.
It's sort of absurd that they're telling us what to do. It's pedagogically unsound.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. And I guess if there are no more questions, okay. I think that there is one question. Yeah. Thank you. So now I think that it's time for me to answer your questions in case you have any. So now I will take your questions. So you can also unmute yourself if you want to ask live, or you can leave a comment in the chat box. Okay.
I think that Gulmira, right? She has a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think,
okay, Mira, one moment. Let me unmute you. Sorry. Yeah, now I think that you are allowed to speak here.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Oh, yes, Mira.
Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Once again, Koprachmiat, thank you so much, Cedric Wilson, for this useful information, for kind reminders, about the importance of plurilingualism and this awareness in general. And my question is somehow related to the previous question. I was just wondering, in your experience, once again, being a local and speaking the local languages, how do you personally handle, as an English instructor, the situations when your students who are supposedly, from what I know, they do have a good level of English, right? And so how do you handle the situations when you would need to use Kazakh or Russian to explain certain things? Do you go ahead and do that? Because I'm not sure if you mentioned that, so I was just wondering about your personal experience.
Personally, to be honest, I think that I also, of course, have a lot to learn and improve in my teaching. And due to the restrictions from my university and the previous comments that we received from some students, I honestly try to limit my personal use of Kazakh and Russian, but I, of course, let my students use their languages explicitly. I say to them, yes, you guys are allowed to use Kazakh and Russian, but if possible, try to use English for output. So that's what I do. But of course, there are times when I try to draw some parallels and when I use a few words in Kazakh or Russian, but that happens rarely because, first of all, my students usually do understand English really well. I think that there is no issue with input here, and rather they have issues with output, meaning that they sometimes struggle to say what they have in mind. Yes, so that's why here plurilingualism is used purposefully, and I'm basing my strategies on their needs and skills. So the same applies to you maybe, or to any other instructor. So if your students are able to understand English, I don't think that there is like any need to use Kazakh that much. But if there is an instance where it is absolutely necessary to refer to Kazakh or Russian to clarify something, of course you should do that, absolutely. But again, I think that there shouldn't be this grammar translation method or similar to that, where the instructor holds the whole lesson in Russian or Kazakh and sometimes says a few things in English. So that's what we are not trying to do by empowering or supporting plurilingualism. So
exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, this is what I liked in your presentation, how you reminded me and all of us, of the importance, of connecting the languages in terms of, building on their prior knowledge, right? Building on the existing knowledge, and therefore, making learning more meaningful, not just, mechanical or, just this idea, something that I constantly think about when teaching, and thinking whether I should or should not, allow students to go ahead and, use
I think that
English.
I think that you are definitely right, and nothing is really a one size fits all, and everything should be considered in your context. Yeah. So if you feel that you should use Kazakh or Russian based on your judgment, of course you should do that. But again, if you feel like the students can get by without you speaking Kazakh and Russian, then why would you need to use those two languages? But again, yeah, learning, I mean, it should all happen strategically, yeah, not just randomly. That's what I want to say as my final message. So plurilingualism does not mean randomly using the linguistic repertoire of the students. It is something that you should do purposefully, strategically, in order to enhance their learning, especially in foreign language classrooms when they are trying to achieve a high level of proficiency in English. Thank you so much. So I think that maybe, yeah, thank you. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I think that we should wrap it up now. I think that I also kind of reflected on my practice, and maybe I will also change a few things in my teaching thanks to this discussion and presentation. So I think that this will be recorded and shared on the YouTube channel of NUGSE later this week, I guess. So thank you everybody, and I think that I should stop sharing my screen now. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Civic Bolson. That was, I think it was really informative, even for students, for educators, linguists, and current teachers. So, and also for me, because I also was a teacher previously. Right now I am a research assistant, and so that was also insight for me. Yeah, so we can, probably you can just say, yeah, something.
Okay.
I mean, we can.
So once again, guys, thank you so much. I think that I just wanted to highlight the importance of analyzing your own curriculum, both as an instructor and as a student. You should always reflect on what is happening, and especially now that we are, let's say, switching to online education, it is even more important, because we can see that some things are working and some things are not, and students are struggling a lot in my experience, and we are struggling as well. So everything should be, let's say, realistic and as effective as possible. We should not be harming ourselves by trying to do more than we can do. Yeah, so we should not really bite more than we can chew. Yeah, and please do consider our students' backgrounds. Do not simply follow the English-only, let's say, direction in teaching English. I think that it is unrealistic to expect our students to be at the level of native speakers when we are bilinguals and multilinguals. So we should do to the best of our abilities in order to enhance what we have at our hands. So that is it. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Thank you so much, Ludmila.
Bye.
See you.